Biodiversity is the diverse and complex ecosystem that supports and gives life to all of the organisms on our planet. Insects, plants, birds, animals, and us. We cannot survive without a healthy ecosystem. Our future depends on it, for our health, the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe. Over the last century, humans have come to dominate the planet, causing rapid ecosystem change and massive loss of biodiversity across the planet. The main driver of threats to Fiji's biodiversity is economic development and is mostly human-induced. Threats include overfishing and exploitation, pollution through agricultural and industrial wastes, urbanization, agricultural development, and species introduction. BIODEV2030 initiative, funded by the French Development Agency, is an innovative approach with a focus on mainstreaming of biodiversity through sector-based commitments.
IUCN's Oceania region covers Australia, New Zealand, and the 24 countries and territories of the Pacific, making up Melanesia, Polynesia, and the Micronesian sub-region. For the BIODEV2030 project, Fiji is the only Pacific Island country out of the 16 pilot countries around the globe that is participating in the project. At the end of the project, data and lessons learned will be disseminated, and I am hoping that the project can be upscaled to the region.
Recent scientific knowledge points to the acceleration of the loss and decline of biodiversity and ecosystem services since 2010. Led by the President of France, Emmanuel Macron, BIODEV aims to reverse the curve and to promote more sustainable and resilient economies. IUCN collaborates with WWF France and Expertise France to catalyse the BIODEV2030 initiative.
Through BIODEV2030 Fiji project, it will greatly assist Fiji and the Ministry of Environment in the following ways. It will support Fiji's implementation on the Convention of Biological Diversity through the National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan, which is the NBSAP. It will also help support diagnosis of biodiversity threats, decline at the national and the sectoral level. This will also help provide data information for the update in the important national environment documents such as NBSAP.
This can be achieved through multi-stakeholder dialogue through the BIODEV2030 3D approach. The first D is diagnosis using science-based methodology such as species threat abatement and restoration metric, and red list of species to identify the threats and 2 economic sectors contributing to the threat. The second D is participatory dialogue of all stakeholders. The third D is dissemination of best practice. IUCN ORO BIODEV2030 recruited Nature Fiji BIODEV2030 to undertake Fiji's biodiversity threat assessment and main drivers loss. The assessment conducted through a methodology of 3 components: a review of the literature and relevant policy documents, analysis and use of species threat abatement restoration metric data, and IUCN red list of species, and lastly, expert elicitation. The results of the study identified 3 main threats to biodiversity in Fiji at the national level. They are Major Threat 1, loss of forest cover and fragmentation, primarily associated with land clearing for agriculture and various other means. Major Threat 2, invasive species, from a range of activities associated with forest loss, habitat fragmentation, and efficient modes of transport for the terrestrial and marine environment. And Major Threat 3, biological resource use, mainly relating to the marine environment. These threats are primarily associated with the agriculture and fisheries economic sectors. The study shares a few experiences and lessons learned.
The key lesson that I learned from participating in this project is the need to update Fiji's data on the IUCN Red List. We need to involve both species experts and also local practitioners so that we can fully appreciate the threats that are happening to these species on the ground.